Okay, guys, here we are. It's the fan show after Tottenham lost 2-1 at home to Nottingham Forest in the Premier League. Not a great deal to say that hasn't already been said. Very, very poor from Spurs, played into Forest's hands. Let's go and see what you guys think. Starting off with Melvin in Malta. How are you, Melvin? Are you on mute?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now, Melvin.
Yeah.
What do you think of that? Can I just say something before you start? They're showing the stats. So the stats were 22 shots to 4, 6 on target to 3, 2.14 expected goals to 0.64, touches in opposition box 45 to 4, 51 crosses to 5, 68% possession. Now, Melvin, tell me this. Will Ange Postecoglou dare to come out tonight in the post-match press conference and be like, oh, we dominated the game. There was only one team who should have won that game, and it was us? Because you don't genuinely think that, do you?
I don't know, probably will. He'll probably defend himself by saying he played Richarlison, the first minutes he's had in ages, Kulusevski. Strange game, strange atmosphere, strange season. It's same goals we conceded time and time again.
It wasn't a strange game, was it, Melvin? Because if you were gonna put a bet on how that game would go against Forest, who play the exact same way in every game, that's what's going to happen against Spurs.
You can argue that we have one team. If you don't play our strongest lineup, we're going to be really, really poor.
That's true.
We didn't play Udogi. It's not an excuse. I mean, the team should have been strong enough to have more of a fight. You could see we lacked, a bit of cohesiveness up front, with the players, a bit of attacking. We kept missing chances. Credits for Richarlison for scoring. He keeps scoring, Richarlison, but I don't know. It's for me, it's these silly mistakes we make when defending. I don't think the concentration levels are as high as they should be.
No.
I mean, they were in the Europa League, which is good for us, but it just shows to be there's something wrong of how we're approaching these games. I know you can argue the season is over in the Premier League. There's nothing to play for at this moment. But I think if you want to win the Europa League, you have to have a mentality of learning how to game manage, learning how to not concede silly goals, defending as a unit, attacking as a unit. With things I was happy with, I thought Tell was bright but not effective, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I thought his crossing was good, and Odegaard was, had some good moments in time. Kulusevski looked off it, and you can see why he's been absent for a while. Bentancur wasn't rested; he was played, and we needed him. And he was, everywhere as usual. But Sarr was a bit all over the place as well, but not in a good way. Romero, I thought, wanted to get sent off. He was practicing his tackling, and I thought the substitutions were a sign of what the manager was feeling. If we were going for the win, if the 3 points were important, he would have kept everyone on. He would have started Maddison, who we missed in the first half. I felt. I don't think we created much or anything through the midfield. It would always have to go down the wings.
Yeah,
and,
it's always like that with Spurs. We
struggle to create anything creative. It's been the same story all season. We still have the same weaknesses we had in September. Nothing's changed.
I've just found some good news, Melvin. I've just found some good news. I didn't realise. I guess I hadn't put much thought into it. But actually, Liverpool at the weekend is our last game before that Bodo Glimt tie. So maybe he played Van der Ven to give him like 45 here, and maybe he won't give him any against Liverpool.
Potentially. I just think the Europa League is the most important thing for us this season. I think the league, it's difficult when you're a fan and you pay for a ticket and you go to the game, and you take your time to travel. But like I've said this all season, nowadays it's easier to accept a defeat when you're sat at home on your sofa, but
Of course.
it's not happy. I'm not happy with losing. I'm not satisfied with losing, but we're in a position where the Premier League is done. There's nothing to fight for. I think the highest we can finish is potentially 11th, which is sad. But the Europa League at the same time is absolutely everything to me at the moment.
Yeah.
It brings us Champions League football and a fucking trophy, which is something, and a European one too. And it's not the Conference League either. So I think the fans would be delirious if we'll be so happy if we could win a trophy in probably our worst season in 20 years. Oh, yeah. Would it classify as our worst season if we win the Europa League, or would it be the best?
It would be the best.
Because we said for so long we would take finishing 15th if we won a trophy, and there's a real possibility it might happen. So, for me, as long as there's no injuries, Postecoglou gave minutes to players that needed it. They're always going to be that way. I mean, Nottingham Forest have a system. They've been playing brilliantly all season. They have a striker that's continuously scored goals, and they're really, really solid at the back.
Yeah.
So I didn't think we were going to win today, even though in the WhatsApp group between us, I was saying that I was weirdly confident after.
I was too. Yeah.
I thought the energy was going to be really, really good, and the fans were happy, and I thought the atmosphere was going to be buzzing, and I was strangely confident where I shouldn't have been.
I actually think Forest might have been one of the worst teams to play at this point, because it's like, yeah, have the ball, yeah, do whatever you want, yeah, but also we're just going to get our head on everything, and eventually, well, I say eventually, they scored 3 times in the first 16 minutes, but they just knew that they would score a goal and then they wouldn't concede, really. I mean, we did score that goal, but I never ever felt like, they were talking on the commentary like, oh, Spurs made loads of chances. I never felt like we made really good chances. We didn't get in behind them. We never got in behind them.
It's a very strange tactic that opposition teams tend to do, is give us the ball, and they'll make enough mistakes where the opposition team will have enough chances to bury them, and that's what happened. And
one thing that I liked was in the first half, Odebear went both ways to beat his man on different occasions, and that's something we don't see enough. We need more players who, when we come up against these deep block teams, can do things that that the opposition are not expecting. But other than that, it's very one-dimensional from Spurs, I think. Very one-dimensional.
Barnaby, you're a goalkeeper, right? Do you blame Vicario for the first goal?
I think I'd ask whether he blames himself. I'd be interested by that. I blame Porro mainly for the first goal. I think he's just got to head it where it came from. I've said it time and time again. Then it comes through bodies. It gets a deflection, but it's the bounce kind of 4 yards in front of him that kills him, and the fact that he's already down. I mean, I think he will probably blame himself a little bit, but also if he did save it, Jamie Carragher might not realize that, but it would be an unbelievable save.
I think it was harsh to call it a Vicario mistake. I know it goes through him, but it gets deflected in the last moment.
It's Porro's mistake as far as I'm concerned, because the one thing you cannot do if the ball comes to you there is head it straight back into a position where they can have a free shot, especially through bodies when it can get deflected. But also, here's a point for me, is like, we don't make any chances like that ourselves. We don't get many shots from 18 yards where we can pile it through bodies, and we don't get many deflected goals. When was the last time we scored a deflected goal? I can't think of it. We just don't have that many long shots. Bergvall against Frankfurt in the first leg, I guess. But most of our kind of shots from distance are mainly around like just inside the box, if it's Sonny or Tell trying to bend it into the far corner or whatever. I don't know. I just think Spurs are easy to play against, basically.
Yeah, it's been the same story all season.
They're just showing the second goal. I mean, the second goal really sums it up, because they're like, we're not going to put it in the box first. We're going to get out wide, closer. And then he just takes one touch out of his feet. Porro kind of dangles a leg. And it's like, we've actually got 4 5 big players. So it's Richarlison, Romero, Van de Ven, Bentancur, and Spence, all within 2 yards of Chris Wood. And then you've got the keeper coming out as well, and none of them get anywhere near him.
What's disappointing today is that we could have got some momentum, for the next game, and even for the Europa League, a bit more confidence within the team.
Yeah.
And I know Forest was a difficult game, but it's frustrating and a bit annoying that how we approached it, I think.
It's very, very poor. Getting a few comments about that. They cut, didn't they, in the first half to Maddison and Johnson laughing on the sidelines. Is that just a bit of unfortunate timing, or do you think they should be making sure they don't laugh just in case they get caught on camera?
I don't know. I think players sometimes are a bit too comfortable with each other, the situation where they are. They're at home, and maybe they should show a bit more professional. Be more professional at times, but at the same time, they probably have the cameras on them 24/7, and when they walk in the stadium, so it's probably taken out of context. They're footballers, they're friends after all as well.
One thing I should say, you've got to give some credit for that clearance off the line from Toffolo. That was absolutely incredible. That might have changed things a little bit. But anyway, listen, Melvin, thanks so much for being part of the show as ever. Liverpool away on Sunday. Look forward to talking to you after that.
See you, mate. See you.
See you, mate. Bye-bye. Okay, next up, we're going to Canada and Colin. Colin, how are you, my man?
Only slightly better than you.
I mean, what is there? What have you got to add after that very inevitable performance and result, as far as I'm concerned?
Yeah, I mean, probably not a lot other than terrible start, and then I would actually say that considering the way we played in the Premier League in the last couple of months, that the first half from about the 20th minute onward wasn't terrible. I mean, no. I would agree with you, they weren't quality chances, but we were getting balls into the box, and we were generating chances at some level. So I was sort of happy about that. I thought
there was some tempo. There was some tempo to it.
Yes, and I thought that maybe that was a hangover from the success we had in the second leg of the Europa. But I was thinking about that too, and it's kind of funny that in a way. No, I don't want to take away from that, but I was thinking that the performance in the Europa wasn't spectacular. We got the job done, and obviously, if you're a fan, that's incredible. But I thought in the first half we were okay. But you talked about being bored in the second half, and it's not impossible that somebody would have fallen asleep for part of the second half, not mentioning any names, but
what, you? Well, I guess we better keep talking about the first half then.
Yeah, let's go back to the first half.
I mean, no, I think that, listen, I think good, why not? If I could have done, I would have fallen asleep as well. Honestly, I do.
Yeah, I felt for you.
But let's talk about this. In reality, Spurs have got 5 games left? What chances of us getting any points whatsoever in the Premier League? And in which case, what is the point of any of us watching them?
It's just a really bizarre situation to be in, don't you think? I mean, we've got this situation where in the semis can you ever remember anybody in the semifinals of a major competition like that was so low in the league? I mean, I know that
and Manchester United.
Yeah, I was going to say United, but it's almost a weird, anomalous situation. And you're right. I mean, really, God bless you for the game coming up against Liverpool. I don't know. You should get danger pay or something, because I don't know what you're going to do.
Dylan Pert Smith in the comments says Fulham in the Europa League final. Do you remember they got to the Europa League final under Roy Hodgson? Dylan, let us know. Did they basically just give up the Premier League that year as well? That's right. Yeah, I guess it can happen. Look, once again, I'll say it. If he manages to lift that trophy, then it will be the best season of ours for a long time. And Dylan also has added Wigan winning the FA Cup and playing Europa in the Championship.
Dylan is on it. Wow, impressive.
Yeah, really on it.
That's
Did they
great.
actually play Europa League while in the Championship that year? Christ.
Wow. Wigan
yeah.
did. Oh, wow, that's pretty
I think
cool.
the problem is experience tells me that are Tottenham actually going to win this Europa League? You know, even if they get past Bodo Glimt, losing to Bodo Glimt in a two-legged semi is where, you know, the memes come in. Do you know what I mean? That's the meme likelihood. But even if we did get through them, do I see us beating Bilbao or Man United in that final when we really need to? My experience, unfortunately, says no. But as much as I would love it to be yes,
I think if we won today, the perspective on Bodo Glimt would be so much different. But now when you look at that squad, I mean, I think it's like 90% Norwegian players. That's not a bad thing necessarily, but it does seem that we could be potentially really ripe to have a really lackluster performance against that team and go out. It's really terrible to have so much riding on this. I think that was my point with being so low in the league and having those last 5 games be so bizarrely meaningless. It's like purgatory. We can't be relegated, but we can't do anything. So I don't know. It's just let's put it this way. I hope you get to go on your trip.
Yeah, I hope I get to go on my trip as well. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm pretty desperate for it as well. Listen, look, you know, I didn't really. I guess I hadn't thought about it, but like I said before, actually, it is only the Liverpool game before that first leg, so maybe him playing Van de Ven for 45 minutes or whatever today made sense, and then either play him 45 again on the weekend or not play him at all on the weekend. But you just got to hope. I just got to hope that against Bodo Glimt, when Bodo Glimt inevitably, when they get the ball, play it out wide and just try and get crosses in, Spurs are just so much more on it that they're looking to block those crosses and mark the men better because that's the way they'll score that, and maybe a counter attack or from a set piece. Like, we know it.
And I'm sure the Bodo Glimt coaching staff is you know, feels really good about their chances based on what they see from how we defend. I think that second goal was, I mean, it was just so poorly. It was so lacklusterly, if that's a word, defended on. To the ball goes out wide to Elanga, and we don't really close to him, and he cuts the ball back. And as you said, I mean, Chris Wood looked about 8 feet tall. I was actually kind of amazed that, yeah, it was just so cleanly picked up by Wood and no one else. And did the gentleman before said you were a goalie, and I think that if he comes off the line and catches that ball, he looks fantastic. But you look really bad when you come off the line and you don't make contact.
You do, but if he hadn't come off the line, he wasn't going to save it anyway.
No, true, yeah.
So,
he wasn't going to save
so
it.
in the end, he's kind of doing it to try and put him off as much as anything.
You
Listen, Colin, I appreciate it, mate. Thanks for being part of the show. I've just got a few other people.
Always a pleasure. Yes.
Cheers, mate.
Have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Okay, next up, we're going to Steve. Steve, how are you, mate?
How do you think after that performance? Yeah.
Are you surprised?
No, not well. I was a little bit. Yeah, I was expecting. I was actually expecting like a draw. I didn't go so far as think we're going to win, even after the good result at Frankfurt. But I do feel that we did create some chances in the first half, but Richarlison just wasn't positioning himself properly to get on the end of that, especially that cross from Odeberg that whizzed across the 6-yard box. But just waiting for a tap in and no one was there. That was one of the things. I thought we, a little bit unlucky not to get a point. I know you sort of think otherwise, but you're entitled to your opinion. That clearance off the line was bloody amazing by the guy whose name escapes me. From Kulishevsky's header flicked on. And he made a very good save, the keeper, from an earlier Richarlison header, and then he finally got on the score sheet, Richie. But I mean, he could have had 2 or 3, really, in my opinion, if his positional play had been better. But overall, yeah, it was a bit of a. The players are not really used to rotating so much and playing with each other, so often. So there was a lot of misplaced passes. Like you said, I think. The main reason that he played who he played earlier on, i.e. Romero and Mickey van der Ven, was to get some more minutes into both of them and playing together at the back. Although they completely lost Chris Woods, Woods rather. So for that header, it was very bitty. Kulishevsky looked right off the pace, didn't he? Didn't really do anything. He was giving the ball away far too often, as were a lot of our players. Disappointed with Vicario for. If he's, I'm sorry, but if the keeper's going to come for a cross, he's got to make it. I don't understand that really, but I thought we deserved a draw, Marcel. Yeah.
But I think it's one thing. This and look, it's absolutely right that we're able to disagree and whatever. But I do personally think it's one thing where, you know, because of the chances you've had, you look at it and you're like, oh, you know, we had the one cleared off the line and you know, a couple of other chances or whatever. But in terms of the game state, I just think for me, at no point did it look like we were really willing to put our bodies on the line in the way that would force us to. I mean, I think it was kind of telling that we only scored that one goal so late in the game that actually Forest were able to just go into the corner and just kick the ball off for the rest of the game. We never in the game state felt to me like we were going to get anything out of it. Yeah, like we were going to get anything out of it.
I agree. And they always, like a lot of teams that play against us, who have, well, every team's got a couple of breakaway fast players, and they just seem to tear into our defence at will.
I mean, I also just on the flip of that, I also don't think, you know, after they scored their second goal, I don't think they looked like they were going to score again either. But also, I think if we had scored a bit earlier, then they probably would have had a few more counterattacks. And if we had ever equalised, they would have just turned it up another gear as well. Probably
that is a possibility, of course. Yeah, because they really wanted that, you know, third place they're up to now with the win. Yeah. Obviously knew what it would mean to them.
I mean, that's another thing. Look, just on the bigger picture here, and I know that, you know, like I said, I know that, you know, we're all about the Europa League now, but the fact that we are going to finish 17th and Forest could finish 3rd is a damning indictment on this season. There is no way of justifying that.
No, I suppose not.
Just some quotes from Ange here. I don't think motivation is an issue. It's a lack of focus and concentration. It's a constant with us. I mean, that I think is true, and I think that for me is the epitome of what happens when you're on the beach, when you're not bothered. You're not as bothered about this match as the opposition are, because there's more in it for them. That's what's been happening for months.
Yeah, that's right. They like most teams, they battled a lot harder than we did. And like we mentioned before, I mean, we've got so many players who are not really, they're a little bit lightweight. Although he gets stuck in, Bentancur isn't a beefy midfielder. He's not and neither is Sarr at all. He's a lightweight. We tend to get brushed off the ball too often and too easily. Very, very disappointing, but not really a surprise, I suppose we could say. We keep harping on about the only thing to look forward to is the Europa League. But
well, at least it's only a week and a half away. And again, I'll say if we win that first leg, I don't know, 4-0, then all will be forgotten about this game and whatever score we get absolutely battered by at Anfield on Sunday. But at least there's a positive to that as well, because when they batter us, at least that means Arsenal won't win the league.
Oh, right. Yeah, well, I don't think they're going to win it anyway, are they, really?
I bloody hope not. Anyway, Steve.
Yeah, okay. No worries.
Top man, thanks for being a part of the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was a bit of a bad one again. I mean, the game was a bad one, not the show.
Top man. See you. Bye.
All the best. Cheers.
And next up, over to Ireland and Noel. Noel, how are you, mate? Thanks for being patient.
Oh, Jesus, Barnaby, I bloody hate football. There's times like I hate it.
You loved it on Thursday night. No,
of course, but tonight I hate it. But you know, the disappointing thing for me, Barnaby, is it's a constant theme all season. You know, Nottingham Forest are a big, strong, physical team. It was the same against Aston Villa. It was the same against Newcastle. It was the same against Fulham. We cannot cope with that type of physicality.
No.
You know, and you know, at the start of the game, I know you don't really blame Vicario for the first goal. I actually do. I thought he should have saved it. And he should certainly have saved the second one. You give a team like Nottingham Forest 2 goals start, you know, and they didn't even look like they were going to score another goal in the game. And they managed the game very comfortably.
I agree.
And, you know, we huffed and puffed and made a few chances, but some of the mistakes and some of the positional play and some of the passes that went astray. And as I said at the start, we are actually teams like that, horses off the ball. They're too physical for us. We can't cope with it. Too nice a team, too friendly. And then, of course, I thought, Forest went into the dark arts. Like the goalkeeper got a ball in the chest and went down. That's what he's entitled to do. But, the amount of time that they took out of the game in the second half, the amount of, times they were lying down and, killing the game. That's what they did. We got a goal back. I agree with you. The one that came, was it Toffolo?
Yeah.
What a save that was. If that had came, if that had went in, Kulusevski actually thought he had scored.
Yeah.
Maybe, as Steve said, we could have got a draw and maybe would have flattered us. But even after Carlson scored, and Spurs didn't really, Forest went into another gear, and they drew fouls. It was so immature. I really don't know what to say, and it's a bloody terrible indictment that a team like Tottenham are now played 33 games and have lost 18. It's absolutely shocking. It is totally.
Here's a quote from Ange. He said he was asked his message to the fans after suffering an 18th league defeat of the season. He said, "I don't need to say anything to the fans. They are disappointed and angry. I don't need to tell them anything. They are clearly not happy with the results. Neither am I or the players." I don't know.
It's a standard answer, isn't it? He's not. There's not much more he can say. The disappointing thing for me is, that it was the amount of mistakes. Really, that there was no continuity, and some of the balls, it was very basic. You had players giving passing straight to an opponent. It looks terrible. It really does. If you even Danso come on, and he passed it straight to him, and Johnson was horsed off it a couple of times. I know he was a sub, and you can't do a lot in a short space of time. But that was a disappointing thing for me. The physicality, and teams like that, we can't seem to cope with it. And,
do you think we need to address the kind of lack of physicality in the team this summer?
Absolutely, more strength in the middle. I said it to Chris one time. A Roy Keane type player, no nonsense type of player, somebody that rolls up his shirt, rolls up his sleeves, and gets players moving. And like Nottingham Forest, there was a guy Dean Yates or whatever his name is, and not a great player, but he gets stuck in, and a very cynical foul on Bergvall, and I thought they were actually very cynical, and but that's their right to do that, But at the same time, that's what my point is, that we cannot cope with that physicality. And all season we've been done by teams like Crystal Palace, Fulham, Aston Villa, Newcastle, Nottingham Forest, and the common theme is their physicality. That's a disappointing thing for me. And their positional play, Steve said it, that Rick Carson does score a couple of goals, but his positional play, it looks terrible at times. And he just can't seem to get anything up and running. I was actually surprised they kept him on. I thought that he would have been replaced.
Resting Solanke.
Yeah, possibly.
I think Richarlison will start at Anfield on Sunday as well.
Well, he probably will actually, and he has scored at Anfield before, so maybe that's a good sign. But I'm not looking forward to Sunday, Barnaby, by any means. I mean, they're going to be in party mood after, they'll probably win the league during the week, and they'll be in party mood.
What do they need? Do they need 6 more points, or they need 3? How's it work?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think, would it not do it this Wednesday, or are they playing again on Wednesday?
Let me have a look. Let's have a look.
I'm not really sure. I thought they were going to be champions select by the time they played us.
I can find this out for you. Oh no, hold on. Not as easy as I thought. I can't find it out. Let's wait. Hold on. Wednesday, Arsenal Palace playing Wednesday.
Yeah.
Tuesday, City Villa, and then they're not playing till us. But you mean if Arsenal don't beat Palace, basically?
Maybe that's it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not looking forward to Sunday either, but maybe Liverpool will just be like, they'll just sit and wait for the problem. Wait till they score the inevitable goal. I mean, maybe they won't try and just get crosses in because they'll try and score the perfect goal. Who knows?
Well, possibly. But here's one for you. Just before you go, I'd say I spent the weekend with a really good friend of mine who's a Spurs supporter, and he has been asking me to throw the name of Scotty Parker in as the next Spurs manager. Just a thought. Maybe a discussion for another day.
He got bombed off. He got bombed off by Bournemouth, though, didn't he? When it looked like he'd done a decent job, but
yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about Scotty Parker. I mean,
no, I don't either. I just said I would throw it in there and maybe get a discussion going on at some stage.
Yeah, throw it in there. All right, Noel. Listen, thanks for being part of the show. I really appreciate it, mate.
Thanks, Barnaby.
See you later. Bye. Okay, I'll just go through some comments. Michael G. Kelly says Liverpool will hammer us to hell and win the league. Adrian says, I don't think people are seeing the bigger picture. We'll end up 17th. There will be at least 5 years to get out of this mess. Okay. I think we have got some good players. Do you think we've got some good players? Paul says, I think if Arsenal lose and Liverpool win, they win the league. Michael says, shocking team and shocking manager. 22 lost this season, the worst I've ever experienced since I started this purgatory in 1980. Jim, bit of a different take. Richarlison works hard, trying to find spaces. If he's healthy, he scores goals. Jesus says, compare Aston Villa and Spurs. You can't. They're galaxies apart. And Arsenal have a bona fide chance to win the Champions League. Ange out. Checkmate says Liverpool become champions on Sunday against Spurs. Jackie Boy says, the only positive to take from the game is it's now one less game until the end of the season. Yeah, I think so. And Tiny Wars says, I think there's a massive disconnect between the club and the fans. I think the club's taking the piss now, given the league results. Yeah, but we've gone too far now. And I'll say it again. I've said it a number of times. You know, Daniel Levy has had so much abuse for the last 4 or 5 years for sacking managers too early that he is now sticking with Ange until the Europa League run is over. So, you know, we can't have it both ways. We can't slag him off for it and then have a go at him because he's sticking with the man. It's just the way it is. Yesh says, we'll finish this season after losing more than half our league games. In no world is this acceptable. Win the Europa League or lose it, Ange has to be sacked. Well, I've said it, and I think this is what would happen if we won the Europa League. I think Ange would do the open top bus tour and then probably resign. And then he would have his pick of jobs, I think. Anyway, guys, listen, thanks for being a part of the show. Those of you who called in, if you'd like to appear on a future episode of The Fan Show, then please email tottenhamfanchris@gmail.com. That's tottenhamfanchris@gmail.com. It's really important to Chris and the channel that that we give everyone a voice, particularly those from all around the world. So wherever you're from, please do get in touch.